Hey guys, Neil Sabel here. Peace. I just want to talk about social intervention and what I feel the government should be doing regarding that. And it seems to be we live in a system, in a society where it's kind of like when it gets to critical, then someone cares, right? So it's kind of like when someone's having a heart attack, then the paramedics show up. When someone's having a psychotic episode, then the paramedics show up. When someone is about to jump off the roof, then someone shows up. But what about all that, the time leading up to those events? I mean, say you got a person who's getting chronically depressed for years, but the social services say, if he doesn't call, we don't help, right? But that's a bit of a cop out, if you ask me, because um, sometimes people don't know they need help, right? Especially if they're stubborn and they're kind of like setting their ways. They're going to be like, no, I don't want your help, leave me alone, kind of. I know, and they can't reach out. Now these people can't reach out. Isn't it the government's responsibility to reach out for them, as in, send someone, to see if they're okay, to kind of be with them, to support them, to give them motivation or whatever they need, and then isn't that preventative? As in, doesn't that prevent the person eventually from getting depressed, because he's got some, they have got someone to talk to, confide in, a professional who could counsel them, help them through their kind of phase of getting depressed or whatever, and then that could actually prevent them from getting depressed, and then it's kind of like it's preventative. So then you don't need the paramedics to show up the last minute when they're having a breakdown, or they get hospitalized, or they get on meds. That can all be avoided. But the government has this insane attitude of like, if no one calls, we don't give a shit. If it's not critical, we're not coming. It's kind of like absurd, if you ask me. It's social intervention needs to happen at a point where someone can get helped way before they reach the critical stage. Because we all have signs of deterioration, in our attitude, in our thinking, in our kind of, in our behavior. So, we all have, sorry, attitudes of deterioration, and that can be spotted early on, and that can be remedied early on, and that can be fixed without the need for hospitalization and medication. And, so this whole ethos, this whole culture of, let's wait till the last minute, and then we'll do something when the guy's actually on having the heart attack. Then we give a fuck. It's like, couldn't you have helped the guy way before? And a point leads on to nutrition. So that's one point about social intervention, the government waiting till the last minute and not having enough preventative measures to stop people getting to mass critical point. And another point leads me on to nutrition, which is, are we taught nutrition in school? I think about all the subjects we're taught in school: geography, maths, English, science, blah blah blah. And when can you last remember you had a nutrition class? I don't. When I was in primary school, secondary school, even up to college, there was fuck all about nutrition. No one sat down and taught the kids, well, look, eat your vegetables, eat fruits, eat lean meats, watch your carbs, watch your, sugars, all of this kind of really necessary stuff. We were never taught. And I don't know about you, but I personally, engaged in a life of bad nutrition, which I'm trying to fix. And a lot of kids, a lot of people growing up were doing the same. We weren't realizing that eating these fucking burgers and these sweets were going to have such a big impact in the long term. And it's not a joke, because you could get all sorts of shit, from bad diet and lack of nutrition, diabetes, heart problems, whatever. And the schools just don't teach it. Why not? It's just, why the fuck don't they teach nutrition? It should be a curriculum, subject every day, the same as if we learn about Henry VIII and geography and fucking rocks and all of this other stuff that we don't really use much in life. But how beneficial is learning about nutrition? And if you have a bad diet and bad nutrition, you get depressed as well, because your body is imbalanced. So then you need meds for the imbalances in your mind, and you need meds for the imbalances in your body, and it's all meds. And I'm beginning to think that they don't teach nutrition because the pharmaceutical companies don't want them to, because they want kids growing up eating fucking Haribos and drinking Coke and having McDonald's up until their late adulthood and whatever, and then so they can, oh, here's a med for that, and here's a med for that, and here's a med for that, oh, and you need this med for that, and this med for that side effect. So it's all just medicate the population and don't give a shit about the nutrition, and this is another, well, it doesn't get taught in school, which is diabolical. I mean, there's so much bullshit that gets taught in school we don't even need to learn, but we don't get taught nutrition. And it's not even, I don't even see it as a degree. So, at the end, you might be able to choose it as a degree subject, but you remember being able to choose it at primary school, at secondary school, at college? No, I don't remember any option of nutrition. And even if there was one, it wasn't heavily promoted, not like the economics and maths and all those other subjects which had a lot of heavy promotion behind them. It wasn't heavily promoted, and people didn't know a lot about it, and you kind of went along in your ignorance and your arrogance, thinking that what you're eating is going to be fine, and it's all of this blasé attitude. I have a cake, have a Kit Kat. We don't realize this. Have a cake, have a Kit Kat. It's gonna, it's not funny when you're, I don't want to say, but when it's reached critical, and have a cake, have a Kit Kat no longer is not fun anymore, because you need meds because you had too many cakes and too many Kit Kats, quite frankly. So that's the point I want to make about nutrition. And so there are 2 points: social intervention and at an earlier stage, and nutrition. And the government, it's not getting a handle on this. So it's something to think about. And it's basic. The solution is basic. Like you would get a care coordinator for when you get like you get a care coordinator for when you get psychologically affected. Then you get a care coordinator to come and kind of like give you one-to-one talking therapy and help you out and motivate you and stuff, trying to get you out the rut. You should have a care coordinator type figure or character come along at an early stage when you're starting to deteriorate, come along and talk to you and get you out of the rut before it turns into chronic depression, before it turns into whatever, some suicide attempts or some crazy shit, before it goes bad, right? That's what you need. You need someone to act early, and people don't know they're ill unless of course you tell them they are, and then sometimes it doesn't register with someone because they're so stuck in their world and they don't know what's happening to their lives, and they can't get out of the rut, and the government is saying unless you call, we're not going to help. So they're they're getting a double whammy. And sometimes it takes a lot of persistence for someone to get through to someone, right? And then it's like at that point they're like they see the light, and they realize I'm not living the best life. I could do a lot more. I can improve a lot. And thank you so much for persisting with me. It took 6 months before I actually registered that I needed help, but they registered it in the end, and that's what counts. And then once they register it internally, they can go and improve their lives. But they're not going to see the light. People don't want to ask for help because they're ashamed, or they're arrogant, or they're conflicts with their ego, and they get left behind and they get stuck in a rut, and the government doesn't care. And only when it's the last minute, when the guy is like, oh, I've turned to alcohol because I don't know what else to do, and I've thrown away my life. And it's only when the guy's drunk too much and he's in A&E, and then the government starts to give a shit, like, what was the problem? What made you drink so much? Do you want to talk about it? Well, if I was the guy, I'd be like, fuck you. Why didn't you come to me when I was like, lose, kind of deteriorate on the in the way to deterioration? Why now? Why when I'm at the addicted point? It doesn't make sense to leave it so late. It's ridiculous, and it makes me think it's just a ploy to get people on meds. Because if it was preventative, they wouldn't need the meds, because it would have been cured early on and they wouldn't have to go on meds. It always just stinks of politics, of pharmaceutical companies trying to shove you that med, and this has to change, and if you're someone who thinks that you've got a problem and you need help, right, and counseling or whatever, you should just take an initiative and call them and get help, because they are not going to call you. That's my point. They're going to wait until you deteriorate until the last minute, and then once you're flat out, then they'll come and help, right? But they're not going to call you to fix the stuff up early on, So that's my message to you. If you need the help, you better take initiative and get the help, because the system is not going to call you. All right. Well, thanks for listening. I hope I've spread some goodness here, and hope to talk to you again. Bye.